What's good, Strategic Fam? It is your boy Xavier back here with another video. Today we are going to be talking about the book of Job. Now, just to be clear, this is not going to be a read-through of the book, so if you haven't read Job or know anything that it talks about, I suggest you go read that and then come back to the video. Today we're just going to be trying to uncover some of the important messages and the lessons that we can take out of the book, so that we may be able to apply them to our own lives. Job is a very famous book. Even non-Christians are usually familiar with the book of Job. So once again, we're not going to be reading through it. Of course, we're going to be highlighting some verses, but we're just going to try to discover the general senses and the message of the book. Job is one of my favorite books. I've read it multiple times. My family Bible study group is going through it right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and start us off with a prayer, make sure that my head is in the right space, and then we'll get into it. And this might be a 2 or 3 part video. It's not a large book, but as I'm trying to explore some of these ideas, it'll take a while for me to actually get through the chapter. So just a quick prayer. Lord God, I pray that together, me and the viewers, whoever may come across this video, we are able to take away the lessons that you need us to take away to apply it to our lives. Lord, I pray that me as a speaker, my heart is in the right place, Lord, not in a place of egotism, Lord, or self-criticism, Lord. Just allow me to be a vessel to spread your message, Lord. In Jesus Christ's name I pray, amen. All right, so let's get straight into it. So the first chapter basically describes who Job was as a person. He was a God-fearing man. He was a man who had a fruitful lifestyle. He had cattle, a large home, a beautiful large family, and he was very blessed. And it says in the chapter, in the book, that he was blameless in God's eyes. Now, this is a very significant statement. I don't think anybody else in the Bible, besides Jesus, of course, had the title of blameless, and he didn't. This wasn't a title that he gave himself. This is God saying that he was blameless in this world. So that's very important for the setup of the story, because as we start to uncover Job's suffering and the things that he went through, the logical thing to think is that he must have done something wrong, which was not the case in this story. So I'm just going to read chapter 1 verse 8, and we're going to start it off there. So it says, "The Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." The devil replies. Also, very interesting fact, this is the first time that Satan was mentioned by name in the Bible. The very first appearance was in Job, right here. So pretty interesting. And I think the only time in the Old Testament, I may be wrong about that, but definitely the first time that he was mentioned. So this is Satan's response. "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread out throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you in your face." Right, so this is Satan's response. And also, let's take into account this interaction that we have. This is a heavenly meeting that takes place in heaven. And when he asked Satan where he's been, he said that he's roaming the earth, seeking who he may devour. He was roaming the earth. So this is still prevalent in today as we speak right now. There are evil spirits, and not only evil spirits, demons, and the devil himself is roaming this earth. He is always calculated, trying to take down God's fellowship and his followers. So it's very important to keep in mind that I'm not going to say that everything that is bad or unfortunate comes from the devil, but he's definitely plotting and scheming. He's mischievous. He's extremely intelligent, and he's always wanting the worst for us and always making plans to do so. So just because this is a biblical text doesn't mean that these things still don't apply to this day. Let's keep going. "The Lord said to Satan, very well then, everything he has in your power, but everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from Job sorry. The Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day when Job's son and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came and said to Job, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the fire of God fell from the heavens and burnt up the sheep and servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. And it goes on and on from that point on, just describing these events that take place that basically was a setup for the desecration of his whole family and then his whole entire life. So everything that was mentioned before in the earlier text, everything he had, his kids, his sheep, his home, was all destroyed. Now it's very important to realize that this is the most dramatized circumstance that you can think of happening to a human being. Everything that he owned, everything that he loves was taken away from him. Now, it's very rare, well, I'm not going to say it's rare, and tragedies happen every day, but usually we encounter bad situations, and they may be in sequence, one bad thing after another, one bad thing after another. But my takeaway, I think, is not so much the events that happened to him, it was Job's response that set up the blessings that he had later on in the story that we'll see. It's just very important to remember that Job, as we'll see through as we keep reading, he always maintained a very pious idea about going through his life. Sometimes if we get so caught up in our circumstances, let's say that Job wasn't a man of God and all these things just happened to him, it'll be very hard to deal with. And that is one of the best parts of having a relationship with God, is having the ability to throw everything at his feet, not having to carry the burden of the world on your shoulders, because we're not made to. Jesus came and he took that burden off of us. But without that, we're just simply not capable, especially in this extreme example, to logicize things that take place in our life, especially in sequence like that. So let's continue. So he lost his family. He lost everything he has worked for, everything that he was blessed with. And this is his response. Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. In my name, the Lord will be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with his wrongdoing. Okay, so let's put that into perspective. He was just given all of this bad news. He didn't even, well, the text didn't show even, he didn't even respond as this bad news was coming to him. He wasn't asking questions. He was just taking it all in. And in the midst of all this shock and all this tragedy that just has been relayed on him, his immediate response was, I'm not going to put this on God. I'm not going to blame him. The Lord taketh just as he giveth. So it's a response that we may hold very, very, we hold Job in a high place for his response. It is very difficult to do something like that, but still he was able to not put the blame on the Lord and still said that his faith is in him. Okay, so after that first sequence and after we see Job's response, there's another meeting held, and we'll read it here. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with himself to present this quote. And the Lord said to him, where have you came from? Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity, though you have incited me against him to ruin him without any reason. Skin for skin, Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. He replied, you are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Okay. Very, very important takeaways from just this small text. Number one thing to realize: nothing can happen without God having the final say. Notice, after God declared that Job was a blameless man once again, even after you attacked his life, killed his family, took everything that he worked hard for, he is still blameless. And Satan, he responded, and he said that, well, sure, he may have not cursed you when he took his stuff, but what man will still remain faithful if his health is not impacted? He's still breathing, he's still living, so of course he's not going to curse you. And then God said, very well, go out and inflict him with sores, but do not take his life. So notice that Satan, he can't just go out on his own authority. He doesn't have the authority to go and afflict us. It all goes through God. And ultimately, this is a test. The setup of it is almost like a bet in heaven that took place. But that is very important to realize, because it's still prevalent today. The devil, Satan, cannot go out and inflict you without God's final say. Also, pay attention to the devil's response. Like I said before, he's very mischievous. I'm not trying to make this lesson about the devil, but he's very clever. Because ultimately, it is my belief that Satan knew Job was blameless. He knew that he wasn't going to turn his back on God, but he kept pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to get the most out of it. And he said, sure, his stuff might be gone, but his health is still intact, so he's not really blameless. He's very mischievous. He's always plotting. In the Bible, it says he's like a serpent, very sneaky and trying to find a route to ruin your life. And once that is achieved, once he's got into your brain, once he's pierced that mental fortitude you have between you and God, it says that he's like a lion ready to devour, which is like the ultimate destruction. So keep that in mind. Now let's talk about this response from Job, and also, very importantly, his wife's response to the second affliction of his health. His wife said to him, are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. Now, one thing that I maintain as I read this over and over is that it's very easy to look at his wife and say, oh, she's not a partner that you would want to have. She's not equally yoked in comparison with Job. But let's take away this biblical, heavenly format that we get the privilege of reading from. Let's say that we're on ground level and we're witnessing this take place. In the time span of days, however long this was, it wasn't a long time span. Job has lost his family, his livestock, so his wealth, and now his health. From the outside looking in, there's points in human behavior when we look at somebody else and we see their suffering, their despair, and all of their loss. And even though we might not come out and say it, she did because she's close to him, that's his wife, that there is no return for you. You have lost so much that it is better you just die. But that is exactly what the devil wanted. But Job's response still was, you're talking like a fool. Right here. You're talking like a fool, woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? And all this, Job did not sin in what he said. I don't blame the wife. Obviously, it's harsh what she said, but I'm sure she is distraught as well. She's going through the same shock, but it is very clear that her faith was not in the same place as Job's, even though he's the main perpetrator or the one being perpetrated with these famines. So pay attention to who you have around you. It is not all of our faith individually is probably not as strong as Job's, let's be honest. So in times of turmoil and affliction, when your faith falters, you need to surround yourself intentionally with people that will feed you the word, who will inspire you, who will be there for you. We're gonna get, I think we're gonna save it for another video. We're gonna talk about his friends that came and supported him. But if your faith falters, you have to have that base to bring you back up. Without it, let's say Job was just a hint less of a faithful man. He's already distraught. Even though, you know, his response is very admirable. He's distraught. He just lost his whole family. Let's say if he was a man of a lesser faith, that type of word, that type of response, give up, curse God and die, that could just be enough to push somebody to the edge. I've already lost all this, and my love, the love of my life, has just said, give it up. And that might just be enough to push somebody over the edge. Guys, I cannot stress enough, you need to get people in your life. If you don't have it now, go out and seek out that church group. Go seek out that Bible study group. Go get their numbers, stay in contact with them. The world is not set up and so that your faith is built and that people are there to support you. You have to go out and do that yourself. You have to pray and ask the Lord to bring in those individuals. That, I'm not trying to get preachy here, but this is just what I take out of that small interaction. So after all that, Job did not sin in what he said. Once again, we could call this the second wave of destruction that came. He did not falter. He remained faithful. Now, it's going to continue on from here and out. And there's going to be I haven't read the New Testament in full, but so far in the Old Testament, this is one of my favorite dialogues that takes place between Job and his friends. So we're going to get into that in the second video. So hope to see you there, and stay prayed up, and I'll see you in the next one.
Do you want to know what it is?